Welcome to another edition of the Fearlessly Curious podcast. And this episode has been something I have been very excited to make happen. And I'm super grateful to Yinka, who's joining us today, Yinka Ewuola. Yinka, you've been so patient with me, but life has thrown its curveballs at me the last couple of months, and you have just been solid and patient. And I just want to say, first of all, thank you for being with me to make this happen today. And very soon, the viewers and listeners are going to know why I was excited to have you on, because you have a presence that is literally unmatched. Now, I may have said this before about other guests, and I always mean it, but I have to be brutally honest. You are really like no one ever met before. Every message you've ever delivered, whether in person, whether I've heard you in a group coaching call, or I've read your content on LinkedIn, or seen you live, whether it's in a LinkedIn live or on your YouTube, there's just something about you that is truly divine and magical. And so, first of all, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here today. I'm going to go right into it. What's on your heart right now?
First of all, thanks is on my heart, Melissa. I really appreciate you having me on the podcast today. As you said, life has been lifing. It's never not the case. Life does what it does. And so I am always grateful for the opportunity to speak, to share insights, and to spend time with amazing women and guys. But because my focus is women, that I'm always grateful for that. So yeah, gratitude is on my heart at the moment for being here. That gratitude is really expansive. This year has been really seminal in the life of my business and in my own life. We had a very difficult start to the year. A loved one of ours had their heart stop on the 2nd of January. So that was a very difficult start. 4 days of praying, crying, hoping, but also a split second of deciding that was not the end of their story, and that was not how our journey was going to end. And yeah, to have them alive and well and on the mend with us today is just a gift. And it has reminded me this entire year, as I have been working towards a huge business milestone of £1 million in agreed sales. Really interesting, because so many people have really spoken it's the message of the internet. You don't want to be rich, you want to be free. You don't want to be rich, you want love. You don't want to be rich, you want other things. And more than ever, looking at that situation that my family and I were in at the beginning of the year, seeing how the cash that we had saved our loved one's life, created space for pause, and for enabled us to not make decisions based on affordability, but on care and on quality. Yeah, it's only rich people who say you don't want to be rich, and you notice how they're never trying to give away the riches that they have. So, from my personal perspective, yeah, gratitude more than anything is on my heart right now. I've been given so many lessons, so many challenges. I've cried so many tears this year, and to see the person that I'm becoming, or let me rephrase, to see the person that I'm unveiling, is truly a gift, for sure.
Again, all I can say is thank you for making the time to be here. And I'm going to be digging deep to invite you to share your story, your journey, not just of this year, but the journey of Yinka, £1 million.
Yeah, in agreed sales. And I'm always very clear about the qualifier, because
Mhm.
we live on these lean, mean internet streets where people make claims that are not legitimate.
Mhm.
And so I'm always very clear. Cash isn't revenue's not profit's not, and yeah, so it's agreed sales. The cash will come. Some of the people in my world pay through installments and payment plans. It's not £1 million cash in the bank this year. That's the goal for next, but it's £1 million worth of promise, which I yeah, in the environment that we live in, backed up against the statistics of less than 10% of female-led businesses ever making 6 figures a year, let alone seven, less than 1% making seven, and the average business run by a Black founder earning 25K a year. I am nothing but grateful for
Wow.
yeah, for what I've been given the opportunity to co-create.
I love that you say that. I love that you say it's a co-creation. And just for clarification, those statistics, is that for the UK? Because I know that's where you're based, right? You're based out of the UK.
Yeah, so they're UK based, but the US isn't. It's 10% of women-led businesses in the UK hit six figures. It's 12% in the US. So
Hmm.
it's not.
Yeah.
It's one or two either side, and it's still
Yeah.
less than 1% in the US and the UK, Western Europe, English-speaking countries. So Australia, Asia as well. So
It's a crazy statistic. It's an absolutely insane statistic. So the
it is.
£1 million in agreed sales it's
Yeah,
incredible
no,
anyway, but give me the
yeah.
context.
It is crazy, but it also, this is part of why I do what I do, because nothing happened by accident. So, my degree was economics. And one of the things that I have continued to do is learn about history through the lens of economics, because money is what causes change. Like I call it, it's the currency of transformation, but there isn't a single there's not a single regime change, there's not a single political change.
Yeah.
There's the freeing of the slaves, the
Yeah.
destruction of apartheid in South Africa, every single one of those decisions, the abolition of slavery in the UK, all of those decisions, a huge lever in the decision making process. Yes, it's easy to rewrite history now and call it moral, but it wasn't moral, it was
Yeah.
economic and it was financial. And the reasons why those statistics are the way that they are, and yet I'm not content to know the statistics. My part of my role and why I know that I'm here to do what I do is to change those statistics. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago that women, it's not, I was going to say it's within our lifetime. So the last 50 years, like literally October 24 was when we were celebrating 50 years since women in the US could get access to credit without a male signature, co-signatory.
Insane.
100, yeah. And again, we're always celebrating half stories. We celebrate women getting the right to vote. What we don't look at is the incredible whitewashing of that movement. It wasn't all women, it was a very specific type of women that they were advocating for,
Mhm.
as
So it was
is
controlled. It's all
indeed,
controlled
and as
information,
is
yeah?
customary with with white feminism. So yeah, we it's the statistics are wild, but they're also not for no reason. The point is that we get to change them if we feel so inclined, and I'm absolutely inclined to change them, because everything other statistics show that when more women have more money, everybody benefits because of how women acquire, invest, and spend their capital. So it is the work that I do around cash, around money, around business, around mindset, habits. For me, it's absolutely a form of activism. It's
Hmm.
in the activism space, it's where I am most effective. That is definitely how I intend to make a difference in this world.
And you're certainly not just an advocate, as you say, you're an activist, and you're not an activist just with your words. You're an activist when it comes to action. And I really admire your level of awareness and your commitment, as you say, to know his story. Some people like to say her story, however you want to frame it, but the
Our
story of
story.
yeah, of how
Yeah.
this all began, or rather why we are where we are in terms of women and cash, our ability to have conversations about cash in the first place. There's a lot of shame around that, right? The education or the lack of education and awareness around cash and our access to it. And both as through a lens of awareness, but also in the ways that we're blindsided, the blind spots that are out there. So I want to dive straight in with that, Yinka, because you're well versed, you're passionate, and my first question to you was, where did this originate, this passion for cash, so to speak?
I definitely think it's been there for a very long time. I think as a child, watching my parents, two of the most hardworking people I've ever met in my entire life, incredible work ethic, some of the most courageous people I've ever met, leave everything that they know and they love, travel to a country of miserable weather. From their home, from everything familiar, to seek to create a better life for their children. And yet, watching them not receive commensurate reward for their efforts and their hard work. I was like, I'm from a very early age, I was someone who I like to know how things work. I like to know why things don't work. I like to know how results are created. And I very quickly learned that hard work and cash do not equate, that the hardest working people in this world are not the wealthiest. And so I began to, and yet that was everything we were ever taught: work hard, get a good job, work, then retire, then die. We were given a blueprint that
It's almost die trying even, right?
exactly. Yeah, just watching my parents, I think, is where it started. Watching their efforts, watching the toll it took on their mental and physical health. Again, there was a flashpoint early in my career. I was an investment banker, and my mum was diagnosed with breast cancer. And yeah, she was working hard to, yeah, basically seek to battle for her money and her life. And the capacity that she had available didn't look like it was going to enable her to win on both fronts, and she couldn't afford to lose on either. So yeah, I was able to step out of my banking career. I did.
You were able to, or you made a conscious choice?
No, it's both. I absolutely made a conscious choice. I was going to say it coincided beautifully with some interesting times, and I'll leave. That's the only bit I will say. I will leave at that, just because I left under an NDA. But yeah, their rhetoric is great, their practice is not, and yeah, so it coincided with a few opportunities. But I was, as I said, I was still able to, because fundamentally, I came into supporting my mom's business having signed an NDA and with cash in the bank. And if I didn't have that runway, even that wouldn't have been possible. So, as difficult and as upsetting and as infuriating and unjust as that entire situation felt at the time, I'm super grateful for what it gave me. There was a clarity, there was, as I said, there was cash in the bank to be able to have that runway to figure out this whole business thing while my mum was recovering. My mum recovered. She's healthy and well with us today. The business also recovered, went on and to make millions, but also to impact millions of children's lives here in the UK and across the world. And for me, I just realized how important cash was and how nobody was talking about it. Nobody who didn't already have it was being given any means to get it, because those who had it wanted to keep it, and those who didn't were being lied
Sidelined?
to. Yeah, were being lied to and indoctrinated that it's not for the likes of you, and the seeking of it is evil, and good people, good, honest people are not wealthy people, all of those social messages. And I was just like, forget that. Yeah, no, no.
Tell me, like, Yinka, do you have to work hard to get cash? Does
No,
one have to work hard to get cash? Let me put it.
no. And the reason I say no is because ultimately the most effective means of creating cash is when recreates itself. And money making money is the fastest way to make money. That at the moment we're watching Bitcoin do what Bitcoin does.
Yeah.
And to be honest, there'll be a crash soon, whatever.
Them.
Those of us with crypto positions, as long as yeah, I'm hodling mine. But the point I'm making is that making money is the most effective way to make money, for money to be created. Does work have to happen? What I would say is that because cash is a form of value, has to be exchanged. And more often than not in my spaces, the way that women make money most powerfully isn't in the stuff that is hard work. It's in the stuff that they're gifted in. It's in the stuff that they find so innately easy. And again, because of the social messaging, they're like, it can't be that valuable if it's so easy for me. And actually, I'm like, no, these are your innate gifts that you have honed and you have perfected. Yes, there is effort to make money. Effort, yes. Work, yes. But work and money they're not necessarily correlated. I've seen the most incredible people with the most brilliant work ethic, and they're broke as a goat. And so money follows its own rules. And hard work absolutely can be inserted in there. And hard in and of itself has its own definition. We can probably have a conversation about that another time. You have to work, absolutely, but work in and of itself. Many people work for no money. Many people don't work and make money. And so it is really important to understand things that we believe to be true, that we
Yeah.
have visual and obvious evidence that is not true.
Yeah. And language here is, I love how you broke that down with hard and work, right? Because the language we use as well, I believe, has such an influence on the way we perceive things, and how it influences how we take action, how inspired we are, how motivated we are. Me personally, work for me actually, Yinka, is literally a four-letter word. The expletive four-letter word I try and eradicate from my dictionary, purely because it makes me feel the other four-letter words starts with S and ends with T. It really just makes me feel, I'd much rather put effort into something that inspires me, effort into something that interests me, that I have a curiosity for, that I want to learn more about, that actually I'm passionate for. And to me, that speaks to the gifts you're talking about. Like, really, we put concerted effort in what we're gifted at, where we're strong.
What I would add there, and like you said, language is really important. For me, I think work is such a privilege. I really
Mm,
do. I find it when I look at everything I've learned about myself, all the skills that I've developed, yes, absolutely, all the cash I've created, but all of the opportunities I've made to
mm,
leave legacy for my children. Work is a gift. And that's not just the work that I enjoyed. Some of
mm-hmm,
my biggest life lessons came from work that in the moment I absolutely hated. And yet, this is where, again, this is where the life lesson comes along, because just
mm,
because something feels bad in the moment doesn't mean it is bad in real life. And
mm-hmm,
that's a very adult lesson. But we learn it as kids. You take your injections. So they hurt in the moment. They keep you safe on an ongoing basis. And for me, I just, even the language around the idea of work, the work is what it is. What often catches us out is the story we have around it, the
mm,
expectation we put on it, the conflation of our self-worth with our net worth, and those
mm,
kinds of issues and paradigms which cause us to feel or to cloud the experience of something that is truly powerful. There isn't any other medium that I'm aware of when you look at work in its purest form, which is just exertion for purpose. It's incredible. It gets to be all the thing, and that's the thing. If you are in a position where you are working for money at the moment because you have bills to pay, then yes, you may be in a situation where you are doing something you don't particularly enjoy or you don't want to do it, or but at the same time, it's such a beautiful opportunity. I talk about work either being or fueling your dreams.
mm-hmm,
And once you have that perspective, either your work is your dream, amazing, you get to live your dream, yay you, or your work isn't your dream, but then it fuels your dream. It creates
mm-hmm,
resources, it creates contacts, it creates space. And therefore,
mm.
irrespective of what it is in the moment, it is also a gift from now and also a greater later. So I
A
definitely, yeah, absolutely. I definitely have, yeah, changed the perception of what work is and what it gets to mean in the fullness of a life that you're trying to live well.
I've come to know you through LinkedIn, your amazing content that you write there, and your incredible Yinka-isms, I like to call them, for a greater later. Are you thinking, just on a side note, and not to minimize on the power of the work that you do, but as a side note, are you thinking of maybe even compiling a Yinka-ism dictionary? Because these one-liners that you have, and sometimes they're more than one-liners, are so incredibly powerful. They're like almost like they're mantras.
I
Have you?
mean, what I will say is that there will be many Yinkaisms in my book, which is
Okay.
being furiously written as we speak. But also, yeah, I'm a church kid. I grew up in
Okay.
church. I am a person who subscribes to a Christian outlook. I say it that way now. I absolutely am a Christian, but I think that the what that means to me is probably different to what it means to most. But yeah, because I spent so much of my time listening to pastors, seeking to make the doctrine and the word memorable, I definitely do think more in sound bites than probably the average person, having been.
I have to say, I can, now that you've mentioned the church, that being a big part of your life, and sitting and listening to sermons, I would imagine, and fueled by a divine passion, I can see now why you're also such a natural at speaking, and you speak with such divine passion. I look forward to your book coming out, Yinka, so keep us posted on that. But bridging over to one of my favorite Yinkaisms is, and I'm going to just read it out: why to stop negotiating with problems and finance solutions. The way that you spin, you're a spin doctor when it comes to language and words for me, because you marry cash, language on finance and money and cash, unashamedly, unapologetically, into life itself. They're not separate, as you mentioned. And does money make the world go around? Yes. And how do you help people make more money? It seems like such a simplistic question. And of course, you can go and search for you on LinkedIn. And by the way, all Yinka's social handles, you'll be able to find them in the podcast. But we've got her here live in the flesh. So in your live words, Yinka, tell us.
Okay, so the first thing I would say is one of the first things I help all people, because I did it in my content to do, is to change the definition that they have of cash. Now, the reason why this is important is because of a quote. This quote comes from an American preacher called Darius Daniels, and he says that if you believe a lie for long enough, it will start to act as truth in your life, and then it will become your truth, even though it's not the truth. Now, the reason why that's significant for me is because pretty much like 90% of the people in this world have believed a lie about cash, which sees them experiencing it as scarce. And the fact is that cash is not scarce, cash is abundant. And so, if you are experiencing something out of its true nature, it is because it is a lie that is expressing itself in your life. And step one of changing anything to do with your experience and results around money is changing the definition of money, is changing what money actually means. For so many people who grew up without cash, the reason that you grew up without cash is because you were told something about cash, which either caused your family to end up trying to avoid it or trying to seek and never achieve it. Either way, both paradigms, as I said, are vested and anchored in the idea that there is a lack of cash, or cash is not for you, or cash is not available. So that's step one of changing the definition of cash. Step two is about changing the definition of you to yourself, because so many people believe that when I have more cash, then X or Y or Z will then become true. I will be happier. I will be safe. And once again, this is a misnomer, an inaccuracy, because cash is a form of energy, but cash has no power unless we give it power. And actually, the source of our safety and security is innate. And we know this to be true because we see people with lots of cash who are miserable to the point of taking it into their own hands to exit on the big world life stage. And then we see people who don't have cash who are happy and are inexplicably absolutely content. And so we again, this is where we take the opportunity to recognize that there are clues about what is true, and yet we are seeing the clues and we're not looking at them. And so so my work, as much as it is to support women to really change the definition of cash, change the definition of themselves, and how they see themselves. And then what that enables us to do is then install the mindset required, up level the skills needed to take action, and then install the habits that are needed to make that cash and that understanding of self and the actions needed to create results consistent, because cash is an output. And if you want consistent output, you need consistent input.
Ooh, I love that breakdown. It's so much more than even I realized you were doing, Yinka. So I'm glad that I asked that question, because from the surface level, one could say, oh, Yinka's the person to go to if you want to make more cash, if you want to have a better relationship with cash, right? But it is so much more than that. To everybody listening and watching this, it's a total life transformation.
100%. Because we know cash to be financial, and yet the least of what cash is financial. It is, money is holistic. And so it's psychological, it is mental, it's emotional,
Emotional.
it's hugely energetic. And so the opportunity that it creates for us is so much broader than putting more cash in the bank. And please do not hear what I am not saying, because there is absolutely more cash in the bank when
Yeah.
people work with me in transformative ways.
Mm-hmm.
But it isn't only the cash that you get when you do this work. It is
Mm-hmm.
a complete and utter transformation of your own self-perception, which is far more valuable. It's ironically, it's the thing that money can't buy. When you see yourself clearly and you understand the role that money is a resource. It is not, it's not a source of any of the things that so many people are trying to receive out of it. But again, that's the whole looking for love in all the wrong places.
I love that you flipped that. Money, looking at money and cash as a resource, really. So people come to you not just because they want to, it's not just about making more money, or, and I say not just about that, because of course there is, as you mentioned, we are talking about more cash in the bank, but they're coming to you just to have more money, but really to improve their relationship with money. So do you have people, I'm just curious now, do you have clients or who come to you who actually have a lot of cash, but just have
Absolutely.
been just terrible, have a terrible relationship with it?
Absolutely. So a lot of my one-to-one clients, again, due to the price point that it countenances, they're £1 million business owners. They are, and that's the thing. This is one of the myths around cash. The idea that if you don't have a lot of it, you have a problem. And if you do, then it's fixed. That's false. Oh boy, is that false.
Right.
And that's the thing. Making more cash, if you can make as much cash as you want, there are and making more cash is the issue for many people, but it's not the issue for everyone. There are many people who make a lot of cash and they don't feel safe to hold it, so they spend it all. And I can assure you that the only thing more scary than having cash flow issues when you have a small business is having cash flow issues when you have a big one. And that's not, that is the financial experience of that is the output, but the input is your relationship with money, your relationship with self, your understanding of what is going on, your grasp of financial situations. But it's also your perception of the world, and you having specific thoughts and ideas about what it means to have your cash or hold your cash or spend your cash or invest your cash. And yeah, my clients range all the way from idea and I want to start a business. And to be honest, I love working with those people most, because from a business perspective, they are learning the right things in the first place rather than having to unlearn things and relearn things. But yeah, all the way up to 8-figure businesses, the work that we do together supports a cash flow approach to business, because cash is not a small business issue, it is an all business issue.
So you work with people across the board of all different financial mobilities.
And as I said, the support that is required, often there are pillars, and so we are always working within those pillars. But as I said, if I'm working with a client one-to-one and they have £1 million business, then some of the things that I'm working with a client who is working to get their first 5K, some of those conversations are quite different, and many of them are not. And therein lies the point, because the other challenge that I have, certainly in my world, is we are becoming more aware that we have had poor or little financial knowledge. But then the people who are giving the financial knowledge, I cannot tell you how bizarre I find it over and over again. The people who are delivering financial knowledge and training, it isn't to say that everyone isn't on their own journey, but there is a significant mindset shift that I think is really important that I don't see in most of the financial training that we see, which is most financial knowledge and training is trying to help people not to lose. So they're playing not to lose rather than playing to win.
Right.
Now, playing not to lose is a survival game. Playing to win is a thriving game, that they are not even in the same neighborhood. But again, so much of the financial knowledge out there is, it's by design, and it's designed to keep people in scarcity, and controllable. So
I definitely want to second you on that. I feel that even not just in terms of the financial world and money coaching, for one of a different form of expression, but really in therapy and coaching of all forms and support, it's always coming from, I won't say always, that's unfair, predominantly coming from a place of lack to keep people coming back for more. So again, viewers and listeners, make sure you come back to this and listen to these Yinka-isms and this Yinka wisdom, because there is a truth in that. And once you wake up to that, once you become aware of this, how the world predominantly functions from a place of lack, and how that is a very insidious way of controlling us, because we just walk the world always feeling like we don't have enough. I'm not enough. I don't have enough. There's never enough time of anything. We're constantly searching for something or someone to fill that gap. And we're searching outside of ourselves instead of looking within ourselves and focusing on it's like focusing only on the problems rather than looking at the solutions. As the Yinkaism, stop negotiating with problems and finance the solutions. Right? And the minute we realize that we are being manipulated, and it's not everybody, but predominantly, because that's how the system has been built to keep us in lack.
It's everybody. Right? We are all being manipulated without exception. Now, and it's the way the world works. Yes. And society doesn't work when everyone just does whatever the hell they like. So it isn't to say that all manipulation is bad, but the point there is that right now, I think it's pretty plain to see that the world is in a pretty dire state. It's a dumpster fire at the moment, and it is a dumpster fire while the richest man on earth remains the richest man on earth, while the calculation to end things like world hunger or poverty or whatever is less than the combined wealth of the top 10 richest people on the planet. And so the point for me is, we who are not the top 10 richest people on the planet can very easily say it's their job to fix it. And I'm minded that no, it isn't. It's not their job to fix it. They have the wealth and they are spending in line with their values, which they have every right to do, because that is another thing that cash is. Cash is a resource that amplifies the desires of the holder and the values of the holder. So if you have different values, get your cash and express your values. Stop sitting in judgment of those who have cash and express and live different values. Yeah. And that's the thing. The people who have the cash in the world at the moment, we do not share. We do not have shared values. And so it isn't my role to sit here and judge them for their values. It's my role to create cash and to have it in unapologetic and obnoxious levels of abundance, so that I can spend from my overflow and create the paradigm of the world that I want to see. That's my task. The world, the fact that the world isn't the way I want it to be, that's on me, because I have the tools, I have the skills, I know how to make money, and what I don't know, I can learn. And so I take the opportunity very seriously. I also take the responsibility very seriously. I am definitely, and this one is Spider-Man, not mine, I definitely believe that to whom much is given, much is required. I have been given so much in the lineage of my family. I've been given most of all, because I have the head start of every single one of the ancestors that came before me. And so what the hell would I be doing with that head start if not creating a world that is better for those who are coming after me?
I love that you speak there about generational legacy, because often what we tend to inherit is the hardship, right? This is another blind spot or another lie. And I'm sure you agree with me, Yinka. Tell me if you do. My ancestors worked really hard to give me this life, so I have to work hard because otherwise I'm ungrateful. Whereas it's like, my ancestors worked really hard. If they survived so that I could have a life, surely they survived. So for more than just survival on my part, but for me to
Absolutely.
thrive.
It's one of the reasons why, and I'm really excited about this, but I encapsulate the kind of real feeling and energy of the work that I do in the expression rich and rested. I am not available for hustle and hassle because that was what came before. I'm here for rich and rested. I am here there are so many things that ran in my family. Hardworking women I stand on the shoulders of giants. My mother, grandmother, great grandmother, as far back as we can remember, those women are fierce, they're fiery, they're incredible, they create magic, and they're tired, and they work so freaking hard. I'm the person in my lineage. I'm putting a stop to that.
The cycle
I
breaker.
am not, yeah, I'm going to model nervous system regulation. I'm going to model relaxation. I'm going to model a different paradigm of holistic wealth. And I am not, but in order to do that, I absolutely have had to retrain myself, retrain my nervous system. I've had to learn to be okay with stopping and pausing and relaxing and unlearning all of the toxic definitions that we have learned about rest,
And
about
conditioning.
absolutely. And yeah, from that perspective, I am truly grateful because my ancestors created an opportunity for me to have space to choose. And I'm not choosing what was chosen before. And it's my intention to create for my children space for them to choose again and to honor their choice. If they want to go back to hard work, I will try and caution them against it, but they will be grown and I respect their choices. But the point is that as I said, work is such a gift, it's such a privilege. And the idea that we were put on this planet to work, to give our money to the gas company, that isn't the purpose of work. And so it is really important that we have the space and the time, the creativity and the innovation and the calmness to be able to solve the world's biggest problems. And that's what cash brings. Cash brings space. Cash brings creativity. Cash brings the opportunity to calmly think. You've never seen
Yes.
someone hungry, thirsty, and in physical mortal danger find a cure for cancer. That's not how it works. And so we have to get out of that survival space if we are to create real change. And like I said, that change starts on an individual level and then ripples out. But yeah, I am not available. I am team rich and rested.
So if that sounds exciting for you, then you definitely need to find Yinka and go her way. Rich and rested definitely is something I subscribe to, Yinka. With this generational legacy and generational wealth, I'm assuming that the work that you do with your clients, that you do tap into this as well from the holistic point of view too. What kind of scripts are you helping? And is it women in particular that you work with?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So yes, my work focuses on women because when I came up learning about business, supporting my mum's business, so much of the training and knowledge out there was designed by men for men. And that annoyed me because it was based on this paradigm of just work harder, go and lock yourself away for a weekend, and go and learn this new tool. And I was like, you can do that because you've got a wife supplying you with 3 meals a day. And yeah, none of it acknowledged the wife at home effect. And that just irritated me. So yeah, my work absolutely has centered around supporting women in this and is still going to be the predominant focus of my work. But because I am a speaker, because I train and coach in corporate spaces, I absolutely do work with and support men, but my programs definitely focus on women too. And yeah, I think there is something really powerful because life comes via women, works and training of children. Women are often the primary caregiver in two-parent mum-dad household. It's often the mum. Not always, but often the mum. And I'm aware now that family looks very different and different paradigms and what have you. But there is a lot to be said for how much further your work goes when you support women
Yeah.
because of how they think, because of the
How we're,
history.
how we're built. How
Yeah,
we're built.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what that creates, is the opportunity. I've seen it with my own children. Me doing this work, me learning this, has created opportunities for them to not have to unlearn and relearn things. They know they've learned things in a specific way the first time round that seeks to really transform their own experiences. And I saw it in lockdown when my son decided to start their own business. They created a product, they sold the product, they made over £1,000 out of their first
Fantastic.
product,
Wow.
and then sent the money to an orphanage in Nigeria to help some children who didn't have parents and were suffering and struggling through lockdown. And that's the beautiful thing about money. I believe, I don't know who said it, but you can never be poor enough to help a poor person out of poverty, but you can be rich enough. And so
Mm.
it's, I'm part of me. And again, this is when I get very spicy and very frustrated, but I'm bored of seeing people with brilliant hearts and great ideas not create the impact they should create in the world because they don't have the money to do so. I'm like, that's also your responsibility. Sort it out. Everybody is put on the planet to sort. Yes, the money piece is hard, but you're a grown up. So be a grown up and get that bit sorted as well. No
Yeah.
one is coming to save you. And yeah,
And don't pay a victim. Don't pay a
yeah,
victim.
absolutely.
There is like we mentioned earlier, the system is built to enslave us, enslave. And there's different levels of enslavement, right? Because we can talk about culture, we can
Absolutely.
talk about gender, all different layers of that. But the thing is, you can either get frustrated and try to fight the system or do what you're doing, which is, you know what? I asked the question, what patterns and stereotypes did you disrupt? And you're like, all of them, because I'm none of it. And it's just, excuse my French, I'm just going to say it and have to bleep it out. Fuck the system. Rather than try to fix it, you create your own. That's it. You create.
And it's something I say all the time because people hear the things that I have to say, and I come from a very investment banking. There is no more capitalist environment than that. And
Yeah.
people are like, okay, fine, are you a capitalist? And I'm like, let me be very clear. I am not trying to win capitalism. I'm not. A
Mm,
capitalism in is inherently exploitative, and that
yeah.
is not in line with my values. But I tell you one thing, I'm not trying to lose capitalism either.
Yeah.
And therein lies the point. Because so many people who are like, I don't want to win capitalism, I don't want to be part of it. You are part of it. If you live in a capitalist country, you're part of it. And
Yeah.
therefore, I understand not trying to win it, but I don't understand being happy to lose it. Because losing capitalism helps
Makes no sense.
nobody.
And you might
Nobody
as
is
well
helped with that.
learn. You might as well learn to leverage it, to use
Right.
it to maximize, to increase your cash, and then do your part to contribute back to society, to give
Right.
back to society. Because you can't break something that's that big. And why would you when you can work smart and leverage on it?
And that's the thing. It's never going to be. This is the reason why my mission is about helping 10,000 women to build £1 million businesses. Because am I gonna destroy the system alone? No, of course not. That's not, I am not daft enough to believe that is how it works, at least not for me. I'm not suggesting
Yeah.
that no one can do it. I'm saying that this is not how it's going to work in this space. But with 10,000 women and £1 million businesses, the buying power, the earning power, the influence, we've just seen money buy an election. As I said, every change that we experience is underpinned by economic and financial decisions.
Yeah.
And so are you going to continue to be part of the group that does not have economic and financial influence? For me, the answer is no. I'm not about that life. I am playing to win.
Yeah.
And for me, playing to win means ensuring that as many people as possible win alongside me. And therefore, it's important to me to continue to create and facilitate the opportunity for them to do.
I could talk to you for hours, Yinka, and I'd just continuously be inspired by you. I want to bring this to a close where we first started. And first of all, I want to honor you again for this incredible milestone that you're approaching, £1 million in agreed sales. But really, it's also about the incredible impact you're creating, the hope that you're fueling, the action that you're helping others take, not just in creating more cash, but really in reinventing or really unraveling who we really are as women and our capacity to claim our space, own our space, claim our space, take up space, fill it with as much cash as possible, and bring change into the world collectively in the way that you mentioned it when we started, in collaboration. You're co-creating with these women. It's not about my way or the highway. It's about, this was my way, let's figure out what your way is, and be abundant that way.
And it takes a lot of work to not just find something that works for you and then insist that everyone does it that way. It does. It takes a lot of work, because for people that you love, for people who you care about, you want them to get good things quickly. But that isn't the game. The game is the journey. And the journey is different for all of us. And there are no shortcuts, is something I genuinely believe. There are no there are no shortcuts. And so it's the reason why, even though this has been the toughest and best year of my life, my commitment with God is that the rest of my days are the best of my days. So it is really important to me that I continue to grow, I continue to improve, I continue to listen to where this mission takes me, and I continue to remember what it's for. And I think that is something that is easy to get sidetracked when you are having some success. It's really easy to feel like, oh, it becomes about you and your methods and your mission. And it's really not any of that. Honestly, I remain as introverted as I ever have been. And that's the irony, because as I continue on my mission, I'm becoming more visible, I am creating more impact, and I'm really pulling with my desire to stay in a corner and read a book. But as I said, that's what I prefer, but this isn't about me. It's so much more important than about me, and it's so much bigger than me, such that I won't stay in a corner and read a book. Not yet, anyway. I'll continue to, push the boundaries, disrupt the paradigms, do all the things, disrupt, change the status quo, and do all that I can in my spaces to create the change that I want to see.
Love it. I love it, Yinka. Let's be the change, as the great Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. And you're not just doing that, you're helping other women become who they're born to be, who they're meant to be. Before we close, I asked you, if you were a song, what song would you be? And you shared with me African Woman by Yemi Alade. Did I say the name correctly? Yeah. And Angelique Kidjo, I know Angelique Kidjo's work. And I was like, first of all, I was proud that I knew that, because as much as I feel I have quite an eclectic sort of taste in music and I've listened to a lot of music, I actually haven't heard that name for such a long time. So why this song, African Woman? I have a sense of why, but I'm curious to know.
It's such a great question, and it took me a minute to really think about a song that really encapsulates the things that are important to me. And I love Angelique Kidjo is a legend, is the definition of a legend. Yemi Alade is such an incredible artist, and the song about being an African woman, being proud of that heritage, even just the fact that they're two dark-skinned Black women, is in an environment where colorism is real and shadeism continues.
Yeah.
I just felt it was such a powerful opportunity to really think about, as I said, what is important to me. I almost went there were so many songs that came to mind. Am I going to choose something by Lauryn Hill? Am I going to choose something? Am I going to choose something by India Arie? But then I was like, actually, no, I am a Nigerian woman. Don't let the London accent fool you. I'm a Nigerian woman who happened to be born in a different part of the world, but I'm always going to be a daughter of Africa. I'm always going to be somebody who celebrates that heritage. And yeah, there's so much around those lost stories and the lost celebration of everything that Africa was given to the world. that I was like, actually, this is also an important part of the story that I want to make sure is brought to the forefront. So yeah, that was why I chose that song.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that song. I'm going to be enjoying listening to it and really breathing it all in alongside thinking of you and the incredible work that you're doing, Yinka. So to everybody listening, watching, make sure that you share this podcast, because even by sharing the podcast, even by sharing Yinka's message, you are collaborating with her, you're contributing, you're helping out someone out there who wants more cash, not just needs it, wants it, desires it, is worthy of it, and be part of this change that the world so much needs. Yinka, it's been an absolute pleasure. One thing that you can leave people with coming into 2000.
Great question. So it is just to say that it's never too late to create every single one of the things that you dream and desire. It's never too late. It's never too difficult. It is never too unavailable. I really want people to go into the new year with a sense of wonder, but not about cash. I want you to wonder about you. I want you to understand and recognize your own power. And yes, the power that we have lies in the responsibility that we take. But yeah, cash is absolutely abundant. And the ability to create cash is so much easier than you really understand. And so I really want to encourage everybody to recognize that the time is now. This is the most fundamental building block to create every single one of the dreams that you want. Please don't faff around and go and focus on something else, because you're always still going to come back to the cash. Like, it is the one thing you cannot get away from. So take the time, focus on it, get it sorted. Otherwise, you will spend your time wishing that you had and constantly being held back by the fact that you didn't.
Thank you, Yinka. So what a way to kick off 2025. Go and find Yinka, and she'll help you build that strong foundation for an incredible future, not just for yourself, not just for your future generations, but for the world itself. Yinka, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming and joining us on the Fearlessly Curious podcast.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me.